Welcome back to Squawk Box this morning. Among the stories that are front and center, an emergency Eurogroup meeting starts later this morning in Brussels. Finance ministers will discuss whether to offer Greece a 6-month bridging loan. The new Greek government would use that time to try to negotiate a broader agreement on the country's debt and austerity measures. Also, Valeant is now buying bankrupt cancer vaccine maker Dendreon. Valeant's bid winning after another potential buyer dropped out. According to Reuters reporting the companies expect that deal to close before March. And Pepsi out with earnings this morning. The company reporting earnings of an adjusted $1.12 per share for the fourth quarter. That's 4 cents above estimates. Revenue also beating forecasts. The company saying it is pleased with its results, but does expect a challenging and volatile global macro environment this year. Scott.
Excuse me. And listen to this, if you could. Speak. A record number of Americans renounced their citizenship last year. That's according to new data from the Treasury Department. 3,415 Americans gave up their citizenship in 2014. That's up from the 2,999 that renounced the year before, and triple the number from 2012. Among the drivers, the new Tax Compliance Act that requires foreign banks to reveal American accounts more than $50,000, and that would force Americans overseas to file detailed tax returns and pay U.S. taxes on overseas income. The law designed to catch tax cheats.
The Republican Party gearing up for 2016. The list of potential candidates continues to grow by the week. Our next guest's name is being thrown into the ring. He's calling for across-the-board tax cuts and an end to the estate tax, the death tax. Joining us this morning is former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore. He is currently the chairman of Growth PAC. Good to have you here.
Good morning, Michelle.
So you want to be president of the United States?
Well, I haven't made that decision yet, but what I do care about is making sure that this economy is robust and grows and that there's more opportunities for people, and that's really what's needed right now. And I'm determined to make that case across the United States in the best way that I can.
How are you going to differentiate yourself from Jeb Bush and other guys who are making that same case at this point?
I don't have to do that. What I have to do is really fight for the people of the United States and by having a more robust economy. And that means you have to have tax cuts across the board. We need to have a tax reform of our corporate tax, which is now right now not competitive with anybody else in the United States. We need to reduce the corporate buy the rate down to about 15%.
For corporations.
For corporations, which you can do with a comprehensive plan, which I put on the table.
What do you do for individuals?
I think we need to reduce that to a 10, 15, and 25% tax brackets. But the main thing.
So the wealthiest 25, middle income 15.
15, lower 10. But the main point, though, is to get tax cuts across the board because, as we saw with JFK, as we saw with Ronald Reagan, that begins to move the economy in the right direction. Now, I hear all this happen. But we know right now, and people out there in the United States know, that it isn't that robust. Too many people are unemployed. Too many young people are coming out of college with no opportunities. Too many people are working part-time jobs when they want full-time jobs. This is a national issue and must be dealt with.
Governor, this is a Moneyball game, though, politics. And right now, Jeb Bush, for example, is doing there's a $100,000 fundraiser
right.
tonight. Right. I think. Is it tonight?
I think so.
I think that Henry Kravis is putting on for him.
Yep.
$100,000 a plate
per person.
Per person.
I've never seen a ticket price that high.
How can you compete with that?
You know, if you can buy the presidency, I guess that'll do it. But I believe that the most important point for us is to really talk about the issues that are facing the country. There are serious foreign policy issues. There are serious issues in growth of the economy. These matters have to be addressed. If all you have to do is raise money and buy the presidency, so be it. But I believe that the issues must be addressed.
Is it tougher to sell the message of the economy at a time where you've got 5.7% unemployment rate, job growth 200,000 a month, longest streak of that in some 14 years, while not as robust as certainly most people would like? You compare this to what you're getting across the pond and in other places, it's not that bad.
Well, compared to failed economies, it's not that bad. But compared to the real opportunity society that we aspire to for the United States of America, it is not good. As I've laid out, you can see a slow growth. It's been a deliberate slow growth. We've seen the ability to write off investments reduced, the ability to do that reduced. We've seen people right now that are out of work. We know that Obamacare, for example, has made it very difficult for part-time people to get full-time jobs. These issues must be addressed in order to get a more robust economy, which will increase wage growth. And I think we all agree, everybody agrees, left and right, that we have stagnant wage growth.
We finally started to get a little bit of a tick up in wage growth in the most recent jobs report.
Yeah, and a little bit of tick up is not good enough.
So your Scott's question is, if Romney couldn't win on what was a far worse economy, What makes a Republican win this time around when the economy is getting better, even better?
Because the people of the United States know, as the CEO of Gallup said last week, that these big macro numbers are not actually the true picture of what's going on in the economy today.
Where do you stand on social issues? Because a lot of the independent voter has been pushed to the left because of their distaste for certain sections of the Republican Party being too focused on social issues.
Well, and I think that everybody in the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, for that matter, has an opportunity to push forward their social issues and to make those issues pertinent within the campaign.
And what are yours?
Well, I don't know. Depends on what you want to know. But the main point for me is not that, Michelle. The main point for me is the Republican Party can be unified behind the notion of economic growth and opportunity in this country and tax reform, both at the corporate level and the individual level, to provide opportunity in this country. That's the main thing. And people who are on the right, left, center, even in the Republican Party, can unify behind this plus a foreign policy issue.
Governor, let me ask you a question as a follow-up to that. The American people, as well as the business community, remain concerned about the budget situation in Washington. Deficits, they've come down because the economy's done better. Entitlement reform is still nowhere on the agenda, seemingly, for either party. How do you feel about that? And is that something that you'd focus on if you had the opportunity?
To be sure, the spending side of the ledger has to be addressed because it continues to be out of hand. It continues to be driven by politics, and that is correct. The main point, though, is this. You have to build up the pie. You have to get greater growth. You have to get more revenues by a more robust economy. It's not just the regular working people out there that I'm concerned about. It's also the economy, the ability to actually get. I addressed a group recently and said, well, you know, you'd spend every dime, wouldn't you? And they all said, yeah, we'd spend every dime. And I said, fine, dimes. The time's come to build up the economy, create something more.
When are you going to excuse me, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Is there a vision that the Republican Party has for entitlement reform and long-term structural reform of the budget challenges in Washington?
I think it needs to be addressed because, as we know, it's a state at this point between Obamacare, between all the other entitlements that are just ballooning up to the point where, well, soon it will take up everything. And I think we need to address defense. We're not spending any money at this point on defense in the level that this dangerous world demands that we do. So all of this on the spending, you're right, on the spending side, it has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed in a thoughtful way. Not to say that you're going to cut people's Social Security. I don't think anybody wants to do that. But I think we have to address the spending side. But my side is the revenue side. I want to make sure we cut taxes across the board for people, put more money back in their pockets, create a better quality of life, and a stronger and more robust economy.
When are you going to decide whether you're running or not? You don't want to get too far behind in the fundraising effort.
Well, I don't want to get too far ahead either. I think that I think it just takes some time here to decide what's
soon, though, right?
Well, we've got to decide this year, but what I think is appropriate is to continue to push the ideas and see if they get currency on places like, you know, CNBC and places like that.
Governor, good to have you here this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up.